Hello, and welcome to episode number 5 of Pierre the Chef, where we have our normal gang of idiots here to do the show. There's me, Christopher, and we've got Steve. Say hi.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, everybody.
And it's the two of us, as always. Yeah.
Where's Pierre?
Actually, I did hear from he has turned up finally. Pierre was actually he turned up in a hospital in Portugal of all places. I don't know. He's been kind of vague about what happened. I mean, remember the whole thing with the Gordon Ramsay? He's going to see Gordon Ramsay. He was looking forward to that. And then we got that. I got that really weird letter from him. And well, he's turned up, and apparently the whole thing was some sort of a scam of some sort, which we could have probably guessed, but his eagerness got better of his common sense, I guess. And he's kind of embarrassed about it. I think he's not really telling me a whole lot about what happened. But yeah, he's recovering in a hospital in Portugal from whatever the hell happened, and I don't know where he went or how he got to Portugal, but there he is. He talked about the early parts of this had to do with sort of a cultural immersion thing, and it sounded kind of wacky doodle to me around a campfire, and there was some smoking some stuff. So I don't know if he actually had some incredible adventure or if he took some hallucinogens and was just tripping balls for several weeks.
Okay,
but he's in a hospital recovering from whatever happened while he was out chasing Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
Gordon Ramsay probably has no idea about any of this and would be horrified to discover this whole situation. And will probably say several expletive-laden things about it.
One can only imagine. So he may not.
Watch clips on YouTube. Splice them together.
You could pretty much make your own Gordon Ramsay show at this point, just from spare parts from other shows.
Animatronic Ramsay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they did a CGI Ed Sullivan, so.
Yeah, so Ramsay should do this himself so he can keep cashing the checks and he won't have to show up to work anymore.
Yeah.
We could just do a whole season of MasterChef where like Aaron Sanchez is really there, but he's just looking at like some dude in a green screen suit and they're going to paint it in with the digital Gordon at the end of the series. So Pierre may not have actually been in like an Eastern European gulag.
I think he probably was. I don't know.
Okay.
But who knows? I mean, all the stuff that he said happened might not have happened. He might have just hallucinated it. I don't know. He's not talking about it too much.
Wow.
We'll wish him well and hope that he'll be here for episode 6.
Yeah. Let's hope. I mean, it's getting a little ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like episode 6, it's starting to get a little ridiculous. We're like, because next month will be 6 months. As of our next episode, we'll have been doing this for half a year, and the show is called Pierre the Chef, and we've seen hide nor hair of him.
Yeah, that is true. But I mean, it's gotten ridiculous to the point where people are suggesting that the man doesn't even exist. People don't believe that Pierre exists. Okay. He hasn't been here.
Which is a little insulting, not only to Pierre, and I hesitate to defend him, given his conduct, but to me and you. I mean, do people really? Okay, just think about this. We named the show after him. Why would we name the show? Why would we name the show after a person who we knew ahead of time was never going to be here?
Yeah, that would just be crazy.
That would be ridiculous. So let's just do away with that silly speculation right now.
Yeah, and we waste so much valuable airtime discussing him. Why do we do that?
Why do we even talk about him if he's not real? Who wrote the letter? You showed a letter last time.
Yeah.
Who wrote the letter if Pierre doesn't exist?
I got no answer to that because Pierre wrote it.
Pierre wrote it. So checkmate. Pierre truthers. I think you're so smart. People, that's the downside of the internet, is that everybody thinks they're so fucking smart, because they have access to all this information. Right? Well, I wouldn't say only, but I mean, we've got to be on the list, right?
Right.
Somewhere. I wouldn't dare speculate how high we are, but we got to be on the list.
Mid-range.
Yeah, that's you can say that in all modesty, right?
Yeah.
We're somewhere in the middle of the pack, Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and if you you know, if you sort just for people on YouTube, we've got to be a lot higher than that, wouldn't you think? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I have, you know a lot more about the YouTube community than I do, but I'm hearing a lot of not great things about certain corners of it.
that's what I'm saying. Okay. Well, anyway, Pierre's real, and he's just not here.
End of
But
story.
unfortunately, we do have. Well, actually, not unfortunately, but unfortunately, despite his absence, we do still have a show to do. So, as I'm gonna do my This American Life impression. As you know, every month we choose a theme, and then we present you a series of stories on that theme. And this month's theme is personal responsibility.
Okay, but I didn't prepare any stories.
Oh, well, then we're just going to talk about it for like 45 minutes.
Oh, all right, that works. All right. All right, so you want to start? Should I start?
Well, I mean, I think this was your suggestion. So it's the lie of personal responsibility, and I think when people hear that phrase, they might think it's going to go somewhere different than it's going to go. But
quite possibly. Well, I mean, I've gotten sort of into this because I've been spending some time working on a video going over the Libertarian Party platform and what it stands for, what it doesn't. And it's very much built around concepts of personal responsibility and looking out for yourself, which to a large extent makes sense. I mean, I understand that to a degree in principle. But what I'm finding, and in this and through actual practice, is that personal responsibility has taken on a very Orwellian quality. It's often used for exactly the opposite. Personal responsibility is a phrase that's used to avoid taking personal responsibility for impacts of your actions on other people. It's a form of victim blaming, really. It's a woman's responsibility not to get raped. It's a person's responsibility to be prepared to defend themselves so they don't get shot. If you're poor, it's because you didn't work harder. You have to take personal responsibility. It's a way of divorcing yourself from any social responsibility and of any culpability in how your actions affect other people. And it's very much it means very much the opposite of what it says it does, because it's being used specifically to avoid personal responsibility by passing the blame on to others.
Yeah, because what they're really saying is they're saying I should only have to be responsible for myself as an individual, and I should be allowed to decide for myself what that entails, and I shouldn't be compelled to be responsible for anything beyond myself.
Right. I mean, it's one step away from if I shoot you, the bullet injury is your personal responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. It's not my fault you don't have health insurance.
Right. Or that you didn't wear a bulletproof vest to go to school.
Or that you didn't move. You saw me pointing right at you.
Yeah. It's just,
let's have a little personal responsibility here.
Yeah. I avoided on Facebook making a very snarky comment to somebody who's in my friend list who's libertarian, who was like, why didn't anyone tell me this was available on DVD? I was going to be like, well, it's your personal responsibility to know about these things. It's not anyone else's responsibility to tell you. But I decided, you know what, I'm going to be a better person than that.
Hey, you want DVDs? You make your own DVDs.
Yeah, so I mean, I understand, being responsible for yourself, but people are responsible for they have a social responsibility too. There's not just a personal responsibility. There's a social responsibility as well. Looking out for other people, making it, when you've climbed your way up, you have a responsibility to make it easier for other people to follow you instead of, scorching the earth and cutting the ladder on your way up.
Right. When you climb the rung of the ladder, you don't violently kick it and snap it in two so that other people can't come up.
And it's just, when it's gotten to the point where whenever I hear the phrase personal responsibility, I hear somebody just being selfish and ducking the responsibility for what they do to others. And it's not necessarily fair, but there's a lot of cases where things have become, certain phrases or certain actions become so associated with something unsavory that what they've latched to hasn't elevated what they're doing. What it's done is it's dragged that down.
Yeah, it's a little bit like how the phrase family values has been completely ruined.
Yeah.
Or the traditional family. Like if you take those terms just, separate from their current
Yeah.
cultural context. And you think, oh, family values, what's wrong with that? People like to have families. Family's important. But, you know, it's just a code for homophobia and transphobia and racism and,
Right.
you know, anti-progressivism.
Yeah, so many people have latched their bigotry to Christianity that it no longer elevates the bigotry. It associates Christianity with these terrible things, and it hurts Christianity.
Yeah, it's like what Hank Hill said. You're not making it any better. You're just making Christianity worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Was that with Christian rock?
Christian, yeah, you're not making rock and roll any better.
Yeah, I mean, I have that on a number of things. I mean, the hyper patriotic, you know, the war hawks who want to bomb the Middle East and stuff, and they wrap it up in patriotism and flags and bald eagles, and it's like,
yeah,
it gets to the point where I see an American flag flying on the back of somebody's pickup truck, and I'm like, okay, we know that what they're standing for, it's not good. Which is, again, that's unfair, but so much of it it's been seen so much that's the association that I make now. And, yeah. So the phrase personal responsibility has come to mean, you know, the opposite. I wonder where people can get this concept that their actions have no impact on anyone else that they have to worry about.
I think it's this really narcissistic, extreme version of wishful thinking. You know, I think a lot of libertarians that I've argued with and that I've seen, you know, or read, they have this image of how the world works that is just so wrong. And
oh yeah, well, I have found that in the Libertarian Party platform that it is built on some extremely false assumptions.
Yeah, I mean, I keep coming back to this whenever I find myself sort of butting heads with libertarian ideas. I keep coming back to, where did you ever get this idea? Because from the moment that humanity first existed as a distinct species, we have been social creatures. We have always depended on each other. We have always formed social networks with each other and relied on those and used those to better ourselves and to better our fellow members of the species.
Society is why we're not still a bunch of hunter-gatherers, as we always learn in social studies class in high school.
Yes, and even though there are certainly oppressive forces within society that hold people down and hurt people, society itself in its most basic formulation isn't something that somebody imposed on us. Like, it's the way we are. It's the way we naturally are. And for people to say like, oh, but you know, I want to be an island.
Yeah, but all life is social. I mean, a person who exists in isolation is the end of the line. You know?
Yeah. And this is my favorite part. And we've talked about this in private a bunch of times. And I think I've probably mentioned it, you know, on videos before too, but my favorite part, my favorite little paradox in libertarian thinking is that none of the concepts they cherish have any meaning outside of a social context. If they didn't have connections to other people and they were not dependent on the forbearance and the tolerance and the charity, whatever, of other people, none of their cherished concepts would have any meaning. Private property, individual liberty, none of these things mean anything outside of a social context.
You can't run a business if you're not interacting with other people.
Exactly.
And there's a whole bunch of stuff in the Libertarian Party platform, because you hear the phrase personal responsibility from libertarians more than I think you hear it from anyone else. So, but there's a lot of references to the government disposing of the fruits of people's labor, which is a code for tax. They're against taxation of any kind. You know, well, you know what? Yeah. That's part of the price that you pay for a society where your business is capable of existing. Where you have roads and transportation networks, and you have law enforcement, and you have an economy where people have money to spend on things. You have personal responsibility for your business, but you aren't accomplishing it by yourself. Your business is part of a society.
Exactly. And not only a society, but people born into our particular society, they are able to take advantage of infrastructure and institutions that pre-exist them in some cases by centuries, and they're just plopped into this world where apparently they grow up or they come to think somehow that this is just the natural order of things and things just are this way. You know, nobody had to build roads or found universities or put up telephone poles or start, I mean, it's like all this stuff is just here. And we don't owe anybody else anything. It's not as if taxation had anything to do.
Yeah, wasn't that something Glenn Beck said? I remember a Daily Show clip where they were showing Glenn Beck, and he was running against public education. He goes, "You can educate yourself. You can go to the library. Libraries are free."
Yeah, yeah, and they were put there by the library fairy. Free books.
There was a picture back when Obama made the "You didn't build that" speech that got hatcheted and taken out of context and was excoriated for. And there's a picture of a bunch of people, libertarians or so anti-socialists, whatever, with the "You didn't build that" signs. And somebody took that picture and they started putting arrows to all the things in the background, traffic light, road, telephone pole, sidewalks, law enforcement personnel, all the things that, are there that they're counting on that they didn't build.
Yeah, and even if you count the things,
but this concept of personal responsibility comes from the incredibly narcissistic greed of the position that everything that is given to you, you deserve, but you don't owe anything back to anyone or anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's all you. I just got. I'm in the process of editing a 5 things video on the law of attraction, also known as The Secret, which is one of the most narcissistic ideas I can think of, which is the idea that if you put positive thoughts out into the universe, then positive things will come back to you. And the flip side of that is if you put negative thoughts out into the world, then negative things will come back to you. So basically, if you're a success, it's all you. And if you're a failure, it's all your fault.
Right. And I've seen that. And I've seen the whole The Secret thing. And it actually goes so far to say that you can beat cancer by believing that you're going to beat cancer.
Oh, yeah. It's vile. It's vile pseudoscience.
There is truth about how you're. It was a line in the one where I believe that how I'm feeling changes how the world appears. Yeah. Your perspective is the mood that you're in is going to filter your perceptions to some extent, but it's not going to control reality.
Exactly. It can change how
determined by your mood.
No, it can change how you respond to things, how you react to things, but it can't control the world around you. And that same narcissistic principle at the center of that is also at the center of so much libertarian thought, where if you succeeded, well, that's because you're just that brilliant, or you're that hard of a worker, or whatever. And if someone is struggling or facing, some kind of discrimination, oh, well, we shouldn't concern ourselves with helping them because it's their own fault. Because if I made it, then everybody else can make it too.
Yeah, the Libertarian Party platform is one of the most selfish things I have ever seen. And there are some good points in it. I won't deny that. There's some things in it that I do strongly agree with. But there is such poison in there too. Yeah. And such vitriol and such a lack of compassion or empathy or even basic human decency when it comes to anyone else. I'm sorry I didn't get that one up already. Like I said, I've been telling you, I've been working on it for like weeks. And I was going to try to get it done yesterday, and the script wasn't ready. So, but that's something I'm going to get up here eventually. And it's amazing how it takes certain good ideas and mixes them with such devastating, appalling policies that are so hurtful and I mean I'm running out of words for it. It's just parts of it are absolutely vile. Yeah, it's all in the name of personal responsibility. That that you can do what you want and other people can do what they want, and it doesn't take into account any of the consequences of that. That bigotry and abuse and so on. It says that you're not allowed, it says repeatedly that you can't infringe on the freedoms of other, but at the same time, it is almost explicitly okay with bigotry and discrimination as long as it doesn't come from the government, because all of the things that they flag, they say it's not acceptable if the government does it, but they do say it's acceptable if other groups do it. This is their personal. In fact, you mind if I pull up this one quote from it, because this is This one, when I read this, I read it and I was like, it was so ridiculous. I almost missed it the first time, and then I had to go back and read it, and I'm like, are you kidding me? There's a section about let me see if I can find it. It takes a moment. Rights and discrimination. This is directly from the Libertarian Party platform. One section of it in Rights and Discrimination says, we condemn bigotry as irrational and repugnant. Okay. Government should neither deny nor abridge any individual's human right based upon sex, wealth, ethnicity, creed, age, national origin, personal habits, political reference, or sexual orientation. Okay. But they immediately follow that with, members of private organizations retain their rights to set whatever standards of association they deem appropriate, and individuals are free to respond with ostracism, boycotts, and other free market solutions.
Yeah, because the free market did such a great job getting rid of racism the first time, right?
But they specifically say government may not do any of these abridgments of individual human rights, but then it immediately follows up by private organizations can do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
If you're, and you're free to boycott the company that refuses to deal with you because they won't write a mortgage for a black person or give health insurance to a woman or whatever else. They're free to do that, and you're free to boycott them as a result.
Yeah, and cause see, again,
that is one of the vilest things. The government can't do this, but private organizations retain their rights to do all of those things.
Well, and because they have this
personal responsibility.
Yeah, they have this bizarre assumption that, well, if a white-owned bank chooses not to do business with black folks, well, I mean, that's okay. The black folks can just go to another bank that does do business with them. And the thing is, like,
but what if they all do that?
Well, yeah, we've been here before. Like history has passed through eras where that exact thing happened. And what happened was that black folks, the disadvantages that they faced were magnified and amplified and visited down upon them even more, because it's not like there's a bunch of rich, because most of the wealth still belongs to white people. And it's not like a bunch of white people living in a white supremacist society where the law says you can be as racist as you want, buddy, are dying to start a bank to cater to relatively, I mean, it's just ridiculous. The reason why the government has to step in and say certain types of organizations are not allowed to discriminate on the basis of race or gender or sexuality or whatever is because they do. And that creates an unfair disadvantage for people who belong to those discriminated against groups.
It's like when the Supreme Court overturned part of the Civil Rights Act by citing that these issues didn't exist anymore. It's like, but they don't exist because of the laws in the Civil Rights Act. Yeah. It's like saying, I was having heart palpitations, I was in danger of dying, I started taking medicine, my heart is fine now, obviously I don't need the medicine anymore.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it's like saying, we haven't had a flood for 100 years, what do we need this dam for?
Right.
I mean, it's just, it's so ridiculous.
But what I've found with the Libertarian Party platform is that this whole concept of personal responsibility is used to disguise what they're actually doing. This is a party platform by rich people for rich people. This is government for oligarchs. And it's trying to convince people that personal responsibility is the key and that you don't need government involved. The whole push of it is to minimize government as much as possible and therefore eliminate the one thing that is even remotely keeping the oligarchs under some semblance of control. It's taking away the one thing, the one organization, the one institution that can stand up to them and say, no, you can't do this.
Oh yeah, it's you see where their priorities lie if you read between the lines of some of their rhetoric.
Oh yeah, that's the whole thing. It's the rhetoric is there to disguise what they're doing. They're trying to couch it in personal responsibility and convince people that it's best if they are in control. But by doing that, the way they do that is by getting rid of the one thing that is actually protecting them.
Yeah, they call the government the beast. Right? They use these biblical terms to describe the government. The government is the beast. And why do they hate the government? Because they perceive the government as wanting to take their money. That's how important their money is to them, to the exclusion of everything else. That the government is evil because it wants their money.
Money comes up repeatedly, usually under the term fruits of their labor. That the statement of principles, the first sentence of it uses the phrase "the cult of the omnipotent state." Who believes in the omnipotent state? Give me a break.
We have a constitution, so it's not omnipotent.
Exactly. Whatever happened to, have you read the Constitution? Promote the general welfare.
Yeah, and not only that, there's a lot in there about shit the government can't do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anybody. I don't know a single person who says, of course, nobody would say, I believe in the omnipotent state, but I don't know a single person whose views could be reasonably extrapolated to such a position. You know, like people talk about liberals.
I'm against this whole pipeline through the Indian lands, but you know what? The government says it's okay, so they must know best.
Yeah,
said no one ever.
And I mean, everybody. Has there ever been an eminent domain case that didn't piss off somebody? I mean, the government does things all the time, sometimes well within its constitutional authority, sometimes arguably beyond its constitutional authority, that pisses people off, whether they're on the right or the left or wherever they fall on the spectrum. This idea that, well, if you're not a libertarian, if you believe in taxation and you believe in having an infrastructure and you believe in, having social safety nets and minimum wages, and that somehow you believe in that you're some kind of Stalinist is just ridiculous.
Yeah, taxation isn't something you have to believe in. The government is allowed to collect taxes. It's a concept because the government needs to function.
Exactly. Unless you're some kind of fucking conspiracy theorist that believes that, like, the fucking, what is it, the 16th Amendment wasn't actually ratified or something. I mean,
I found that concept is a little bit fascinating when I first encountered that the government never actually authorized any organization to collect taxes. But the more I dug into it, the more I learned about it, the more it was like these people are just grasping at straws to try to avoid, the paying taxes while still benefiting from the taxes other people pay.
Yeah, it's all just leave me and my money alone. That's what it boils down to. If you want to boil the libertarian platform down to one statement, one guiding principle, it's just leave me and my money alone.
Right. And also, your guns and drugs too. They appeal to the gun and drug people.
I want to buy as many guns as I want. I want to smoke as much weed as I want. I want to keep all my money, and I want you to leave me alone. Those are the 4 principles of libertarian. And the weed thing, go ahead. I don't give a fuck. Smoke all the weed you want. I don't give a shit.
Except they don't specify weed. They just say recreational drugs. I got to tell you, they refer to it as a victimless crime. I can tell you, drug use is not a victimless crime. And
there is, while I definitely believe that it's the sort of thing, at least in terms of drug users, that should not be treated criminally. It should be treated as a medical issue.
Oh, absolutely. But there's too much money to be made in treating it criminally.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's certainly not the issue where the best answer is, well, let's just, let people do whatever they want. Because as you point out, not only does it it hurt people who actually become drug addicts. It hurts their families and their friends and other people in their circles. And it creates an opportunity for people to be exploited, which is something libertarians seem to be completely okay with, not just in terms of like drug use, but if you can create a kind of business market where the people who are in charge can just ruthlessly exploit people and take advantage of them and drain them of every penny they have, I guess that's okay.
Oh, yeah, because they want no regulation of commerce of any kind, which means if every company decides, you know what, we're going to charge $15 for a box of cereal, but we're only going to pay workers $2 an hour.
Yeah.
$1.15 if they're a woman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's fair too. Why shouldn't you? Why shouldn't you be able to? Why shouldn't a business owner be able to pay his people whatever he wants?
Yeah, no oversight. They want no oversight whatsoever. There's one of the huge lies of this. Almost the entire economic platform is built on the belief, and I don't know where they get this idea from, that if you regulate businesses less, they will behave better and look out for the general person, the general welfare and the general populace. I don't know where anybody can reasonably come up with that idea or defend it, because it has absolutely no semblance in reality. And there is a history. I mean, you could list hundreds of incidents that show that is absolutely not true.
And in fact, it is in the wake of such incidents where transformative new regulations are usually enacted.
Right.
I mean,
one of the things about regulation is that almost every regulation that you find is a monument to the people who died who wouldn't have if that regulation had existed earlier.
Yeah.
And it comes, things like fire escapes on buildings. When you're in a public place, the door always opens outward, and that is a government regulation because I forget which, a famous nightclub fire where I forget the details of, but they, their tapestries up around and the flames started shooting up the ceiling, up the walls, across the ceiling, and people were trying to get out, and the doors opened inward, and when they fell shut, the crowd of people trying to get out pushed against it, and nobody could get the doors open, and a lot of people burned to death who would have lived if that hadn't been the case. If they had opened outward, people would have lived. And a lot of regulations, and those, a lot of regulation, I mean, door opening in or out is, a fairly simple thing, but it's an important one, and it's a government that says this is the way it needs to be. When it comes to much bigger things like dumping your coal ash and industrial waste directly into the waterways, they talk about onerous regulations that burden business owners. Well, you know what? Not being allowed to dump your coal ash in the nearest stream is actually a pretty good thing for a lot of people. And it's, you can call it an unnecessary expense that hurts the business, but it helps everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, because it's, and, they love to talk about, individual rights. What gives a company the right to destroy a river for its own profit? Where does that right come from? Because the river is a natural resource that everybody can benefit from. The environment in general is a natural resource that everybody can benefit from, and by the way, that everybody depends upon.
Oh yeah, the Libertarian Party platform does a nice dance on this too, as far as environment goes. I love this. Let me just see. It comments competitive free market. The word free market. Whenever you're free market, just assume it means for profit.
Yeah.
But it says competitive free markets and property rights stimulate the technological innovations and behavioral changes required to protect our environment and ecosystems. I have no idea what that means. Private landowners and conservation groups have a vested interest in maintaining natural resources, but apparently no one else does. Businesses don't, government doesn't. Governments are unaccountable for damage done to our environment and have a terrible track record when it comes to environmental protection. That is actually, I believe, the first demonstrable lie in that. I mean, people, you can, not only, it was mentioned in an Inconvenient Truth that when you take ice core samples, you can see when the Clean Air Act is passed because the ice is cleaner. I have learned that you can, in old trees when I cut down, looking at the rings inside, you can actually see it in the wood in the trees. The wood inside the tree changes color when the Clean Air Act was passed and there was less pollution. The wood is actually brighter because there was less crap. So, the government did that. So, this whole thing about governments have a terrible track record when it comes to environmental protection. No, they do not have it. They
actually have a pretty good track record, and private industry, without regulation has no track record. But they would have you believe that they will behave more responsibility if they're not required to behave more responsibly. Yeah, sure. Yeah, just that's like a little kid going, no, I don't need a babysitter, mom and dad. You go ahead on, you go out and have a good time.
And you know what? If the river is suddenly poisonous because they dumped all the coal ash or the toxic sludge in it, well, you just have to take personal responsibility to find a new water source. You should have been prepared for that.
Yeah, exactly. You should have known that my company had the right to fuck the river. And I want to mention about this. They like to tell this fucking fiction as well about, it's about innovation. If you just get the government off people's backs, that's when the real innovation happens. And look,
isn't the government sponsoring a lot of science and innovation?
That's where I'm going. I mean, you can definitely find like instances in the past, even if you just limit yourself to American history, of people, reaching incredible world-changing innovations, without government help, right? I mean, the telephone, radio, television, like there are lots of things that come from little kernels of genius in someone's mind that they just happen to be this brilliant person and they created the basis for this transformative technology. But there are so many other examples where medical research, technology, has advanced because of research that was done at a public university or in the military, which is a publicly funded socialist institution, or because of NASA, which is a publicly funded institution. I mean, a private industry did not send people to the moon. They worked on government contracts and they built what the government told them to build. And to say that like if we would just unleash, and by the way, private industry has been trying to do what NASA did in the 60s for the last 50 years. And they're just now getting to the point where they can launch their own rockets into fucking Earth orbit.
Right.
That's how.
And this was something that they were able to do with the technology of nearly 50 years ago. You know, when like the Apollo missions, the computers in that were far less powerful than the phone that you carry in your pocket today.
Oh God, they were like calculators. Yeah, I mean,
they were one step above adding machines.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, and look,
they got to the moon and back 6 times out of 7.
And look, I am all for like SpaceX. I think private space flight is terrific. I think I applaud when they reach a new plateau of their development. I think that's great. But to suggest that, you know, well, all you have to do is back the government off and these things will happen on their own. I mean, there is no market for space flight. You know, like that market was created by NASA because John Kennedy said, shit, let's go to the moon. That'll be, you know, that'll be politically advantageous. Let's fly to the moon. And then NASA did it. There was no market reason to do that. There was no money in that. It cost billions of dollars.
I would still call it money well spent.
Oh God, yes. Every cent of it. But yeah.
Much better than the tax subsidies to oil companies, you know.
Yeah. Hey, you know what let's take all the tax subsidies to profitable private businesses and just shift all that money into NASA's budget. How about that?
How about we take the tax subsidy for Ken Ham's Ark encounter?
Yeah, he's not using it anymore.
Wasn't that great that they put the 50-cent surcharge on the tickets to try to help cover some of the costs of it, so for the government, and so he switched the he sold it to his nonprofit organization for $10 to get out of this fee that's going to add up to about $700,000 a year. And so he lost in the process, since it's not a nonprofit anymore, he lost an $18 million tax break.
You know, I actually heard
that made me so happy.
Me too, but I tell you what else made me happy about it. I read a really interesting article that Dan Arrow wrote about it. That it's just like a speculation. I don't know if this is definitely why Ken Ham chose to do this, because on the face of it, you think, why would he do that? Why would he give up an $18 million tax credit?
Maybe because he just didn't realize it was going to happen, but you'd to think somebody involved it, unless it just moved too fast. You know, like Trump just signed the check, signed the paperwork before.
Yeah.
Or anyone could say, that's a terrible idea.
Maybe he's just that big of a dipshit, but the speculation was that the tax credit is tied to the revenue that the Ark generates, because that was the whole point. The whole point was, hey, it's going to be great for the local economy, so we'll give you this big tax break. But what Dan Arrow speculated was that because attendance to the Ark has been so dismal compared to their projections, that Ken Ham may have figured out that he would actually be better off to give up the potential $18 million tax credit that he was never going to be able to take advantage of anyway, because the Ark was never going to be profitable enough to take advantage of it, and just take the $700,000, because that he would wind up ahead. In other words, take the $700,000 now instead of holding out to take advantage of the $18 million tax credit, because you probably won't be able to, because the Ark is a bust.
That's possible, because one of the things that museums count on is people coming back, which is they have rotating exhibits and things on loan from other museums and so on. It's a network. And Ken Ham's Ark exhibit is an island unto itself. And if you go back, 2 years later, it's still all the same stuff in all the same places. So there's not a reason to keep coming back.
Oh, everybody still drowns.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, look, all the exhibits stay the same. Nothing changes on it, so it has a dismal repeat. Is that a recidivism rate I'm looking at here?
Well, because I mean,
that's the right word.
I like atheists who go through it just to be a smartass are only going to do that once.
Yeah.
I mean, You've seen it. It's like, I'm not paying to go through here again.
Right.
They probably snuck in the first place.
So yeah, but that's another great example of personal responsibility. You want the big tax break for your business, and then you try to bail on it when it starts to go south. Well, that's something that has long been said. Every business owner wants to privatize profits and socialize losses.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And they don't want to acknowledge, and I won't say every business owner, because I'm actually, I have friends who are business owners who are actually incredibly principled, moral people who
not all business owners.
Yeah, not all business owners who roll their eyes at this libertarian horseshit as much as we do. But yeah, there is like this culture among libertarians and among a lot of business owners in general of wanting to give as small an amount of the profit to your employees as possible, even though you wouldn't have any of it if it weren't for them.
Right. Well, was that the person who runs Papa John's Pizza debunked trickle-down economics in one sentence?
Yeah.
And it goes on about if the company's profitable, we're under no obligation to share that profit with the workers. It's essentially what he said.
Yeah.
Or just downward. The whole thing of trickle-down economics is that the bucket at the top, it doesn't overflow and trickle down. The bucket just gets bigger and holds it all, which is why the richest people on the planet are still demanding more tax breaks and more benefits. And,
Yeah. Taxes are lower and the economy is weaker, but they want taxes to be even lower. Yeah. Well, I mean, trickle down.
A lot of these, especially greedy business owners, don't understand the concept that you don't have a business if there's nobody who can afford your product.
Yeah. And if you don't make, if you aren't able to employ people to help you make your product, then your business, at the very least, your business has a low ceiling of potential. Because I guess you could just make it yourself. But then you're kind of stuck in one spot,
Yeah, I had somebody at the job I'm at now who's not there anymore, but he was insisting at one point that part of the reason that America can't compete anymore is because they're paying too much in wages, and we can't compete with the places that are paying $1 and $2 an hour. And it's like, wages are not what's breaking the economy here, But no. Of course, he was somebody who he's very conservative, and he would say a lot of very a lot of the classic conservative things. And I think he could tell whenever he said anything especially stupid, because he would sell it by adding, "That's a fact."
Don't bother looking that up.
He would say, he said, we can't compete because the wages here are too high and it's too expensive for labor in the United States. That's a fact. So he said he did one of those things one time where he said that the Democrats want everybody to be completely reliant on the government, and then he adds, "That's a fact." It's like, no. It's like on some level what you're saying is bullshit, because whenever you say something that's especially bullshitty, you have your stock phrase to try to help punch it.
Yeah, I mean, the frustrating thing sometimes when you talk to people like that, and I mean, God knows I am not an economist. I am certainly not a scholar in any subject, least of all the economy. But I mean, libertarians, conservatives in general, I think, but libertarians especially, they like to sort of present themselves as like, they all have like economics degrees,
Yeah.
And yet they make these claims about how, wages are too high, or the minimum wage is too high, and that's what's killing job growth.
Or if you increase the supply, demand will follow.
Yeah. Because I didn't learn the exact opposite of that in Econ 101.
So that means that if I'm the only person making typewriter ribbons, I can become filthy rich.
I just need to make more.
Yeah.
Nobody's buying them yet, but I just got to make more of them. I mean, but like they make these claims that are easily refuted. Right. And if you just, it's like they're economics experts, but they're completely unfamiliar with the concept of real dollars, which is where you translate whatever a dollar is worth today into what it was worth.
You adjust inflation.
Yeah, at some historic.
So that's why you get people saying, 40 years ago, I worked for $6 an hour and I could afford to buy a house. It's like, yeah, but $6 an hour then is like $20 an hour now.
Exactly.
And a soda costs 25 cents and a house costs $5,000.
Yeah, exactly.
So it costs $5,000 then. So let's be fair. That's like $15,000, $20,000 now. But it was, that house now costs $150,000, and you can't afford the mortgage for it because you have too much debt because of your college education, which you were able to afford by working a part-time minimum wage job.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people don't realize, like, the minimum wage, the federal minimum wage now, in terms of buying power, in terms of real dollars,
it's effectively lower now than it was 50 years ago.
It's lower. Yeah. It's not the lowest it's ever been. There have been points in history when because it goes up and down based on the economy and inflation, but it's not the lowest it's ever been. But people who say, like, oh, if we raise it to $10 an hour, or if we raise it to $15 an hour, that'll just kill the economy, because
no,
it has been that high and higher a few times in our history, and it's been higher than it is now, substantially higher than it is now, during just absolutely booming economic periods in this country. So to suggest that, oh, it's the minimum wage, and if we raise the minimum wage to a living wage, well, that'll just kill the economy, is absolutely false. There is no reason to believe that at all.
And evidence actually shows the opposite, that economies generally do better when the minimum wage is raised across the board. It struggles a bit with what we're doing now, where certain cities and states are raising it and others aren't, because then you have the uneven playing field. But if you leveled the whole thing, if you said, $10 an hour, and then a year later we're going to raise it to 12, and a year later we'll raise it to 15, then you could ease it in over time, and the economy would adjust without having quite as much shock. And honestly, it would benefit. I mean, yeah, some prices will go up, but if you were to double the minimum wage, the price of everything is not going to double as a result.
No. I saw somebody, because a couple of years ago, when the Fight for 15 campaign started, there were the people who said, like, well, why should somebody who flips burgers at Burger King make $15 an hour? And they would also say, like, oh, everything's going to be so much more expensive. And there was a chart of estimating how much more a burger at McDonald's would cost.
Like 15 cents.
It's nothing. It's like, you're telling me you wouldn't be willing to pay like 15 cents more for your fucking McDonald's
if you're getting paid 50% more across the board? You can't afford that.
And so that the people working there could make a living, could pay their bills, and I mean, it's. I mean, have you
seen the thing that went around where McDonald's and Visa tried to team up to show how you can survive on a McDonald's income budget, and it has a second income listed, and heating is $0, and health insurance is $20 a month, and rent is $600. Yeah, and then it comes up with, like, you're going to have a couple hundred left over. It's like, yeah, but you got to work a second job, a second full-time job. And you have to find health insurance for $20 a month, because you can get it for $20 a month. Donald Trump says so, and
he knows a lot about healthcare.
Yeah, it's but that's something else about the healthcare. It says a lot of people who are against it, who are like, how we're going to afford this, are under the impression that what we pay for healthcare is what it actually costs.
Yeah,
when you go and somebody gives birth and they get, they're in there for overnight, and then they're sent home, and they get a $75,000 bill. That's not what that costs.
No, and
if you get a list of, like, different hospitals in different parts of the country and what they charge for specific procedures, not only is there no correlation between one region of the country and another, like, this is a higher wage area, it's a more economically vibrant area, things cost more. Not only does that not happen, but there's not even any relation between the different procedures in different locations. It's completely random.
Yeah.
It's just whatever they were able to negotiate with for-profit insurance companies.
Yeah, and I mean, in any other industry, it would not be a reasonable markup. Like, the markup is outrageous. But it's not like, oh, I'll mark it up 2% so I can make a profit. Like, no, it's obscene.
Yeah, there's like a prescription that was developed research on federal grant money. So the government paid for the development of this, and this was like 50 years ago. And now the drug has fallen into private ownership, and a month's supply costs like $1,500, $1,700. And and remember though, if we get government out of this picture, they'll be more responsible. Yeah. Or the personal responsibility aspect, where you need to just work harder so you can afford $1,700 a month for your prescription. And oh, by the way, we're also getting rid of minimum wage because the government shouldn't have any say in that. And it's like, you are aware that you're pulling in two different directions at the same time here, right?
Yeah, and there won't be any socialized medicine, but that's okay. You can still go to the emergency room, because I guess they have chemotherapy there.
Yeah,
I guess they have. You can get dialysis at the emergency room. If you have some kind of chronic illness, let's go to the emergency room.
Yeah, well, your illness is your personal responsibility. You really shouldn't have gotten sick, you know?
Hey, nobody, who told you to get sick? It's not my fault.
Yeah, that's a selfish aspect of it. It's selfishness couched as rugged independence. And you know, and take a look at who their leader, their spokesman, the head of their party is. You know, good old Johnson. He's just the epitome of all those things, isn't he?
Yeah,
you look at him and you go, there's an independent man if ever I saw one.
Yeah, you know, other than maybe the gun obsession, which has been responsible for so many countless deaths and injuries over the centuries, the most awful, evil, toxic lie at the heart of American culture is that rugged individualist bullshit. Yeah. I mean, that has been responsible for so much pain and suffering and heartbreak and oppression. The idea that you can lift yourself up through just the sheer strength of your own will and genius and labor, and you don't need anybody else. And that's what everybody should aspire to be: the rugged individual that doesn't need anybody. It has never once been true. It has been false from the moment it was conceived. And I mean,
except now the rich have laid a very welded a ceiling on it that you can't, upward mobility, that you can't get up because you're in debt from the moment practically from the moment you're born. You can never, there is not upward mobility the way there used to be because the people at the top have made it impossible.
And I mean,
well, not impossible as such, but very, very unlikely.
And it's staring us right in the face. And we keep looking away from it. I mean, I was watching because as we mentioned before we went on the air, I've been in like a really sort of random like old time baseball phase the last week or so, and as part of that, I've been rewatching Ken Burns' baseball documentary, and there's a line in that from episode 4, I think episode 3 or 4, and it's from Mario Cuomo talking about how what he loves about baseball is that it has room for individual glory, but the individual glory means nothing without the team. That we celebrate the home run hitters, we celebrate the lights out pitchers, we admire them and we value their accomplishments, but the ultimate goal is for the team to win. Mm-hmm. And if we forget, and that should be, hey, baseball is a really good metaphor for life, guys. I'm the first person ever to say that. But it's that's mine. I want to nickel every.
I'm pretty sure Pierre said that before you did.
Pierre stole it from me. But no, I mean, it's true. Is that if that's how we look at our community, where yes, if somebody does well as an individual, that's wonderful. We should celebrate that, right? We should encourage.
But if somebody does well as an individual by harming hundreds or thousands of other people, or ruining the quality of life for people, or poisoning the water or the air, or taking out the industry that General Motors moved out of Michigan and during a period of record profits and left thousands and thousands of people unemployed.
Exactly.
And, they did much better. That's that rugged individualist capitalism there, where they increase their profits, but they destroyed an entire community in the process.
Exactly. If you wind up with the highest batting average on your team, but it's because you sawed everybody else's bats, I mean, that doesn't really mean anything, right?
Yeah. It's like, I thought he might finish with a higher batting average than me, so I kneecapped him.
Yeah. Hey, come on, free market. I wanted to win the batting title, so I fucked the rest of them. I paid off the umpire. But yeah, so I mean, I think if you really want to take true personal responsibility, then you need to accept that it is impossible to be responsible only for yourself and not for other people. Like that's just the world that we live in.
Because your success relies on what people are giving to you just as much as what you're giving to them. You had commented something we said off the air, I guess was last week. You had said one of the people say, why should I pay for everyone else's health care? And the answer is because everyone else is paying for yours.
Yeah, exactly. And it works for taxes too. That's how taxes work. Why should I pay? Why should my taxes go to support a public school where I don't, I don't send kids?
I hate that phrase. Why should my taxes pay for your health care? It's like, why should my taxes have paid for your blood war in the Middle East that hasn't ended for 50, 100 years?
Or like anything. You know what I mean?
Why
Like
is I'm not really thrilled with my money going to drone strikes that are killing all sorts of people, many of them innocent, and encouraging the next year of, next generation of terrorists.
Yeah. I would rather my taxes not go for that. But
one of the summaries I saw, it says one of the big differences between conservatives and liberals is that liberals hate it when their tax money goes to killing people, and conservatives hate it when their tax money goes to saving people.
I like that.
It's brutal. It's brutal, but there's a lot of truth in it.
Well, I mean, it's brutal, and people would complain and say like, oh, that makes it sound like conservatives want people to die, and it's not that. It's that they don't
want them to die. They just don't care if they live.
they refuse to accept that is the result of the policies they support. They want to have it both ways. It's just like when Republicans say, oh, we're not an anti-woman party. Well, then stop supporting policies that harm women. We're not an anti-poor party. Well, then stop supporting policies that harm poor people.
We're can't have it both ways. Well, then stop putting white supremacists in the White House.
Yeah, you can't have it both ways. I'm sure that there are probably very few people in this country that have genuine, like, conscious, willful hatred in their heart. It's just that they don't care, or they refuse to face the ramifications of the things they support. And so in that sense, it's completely fair to say conservatives get mad when their tax dollars are used to save people, because guess what? If you support repealing healthcare laws in a way that would cost millions of people access to healthcare, then you're killing people. Yeah, you might not want to.
Yeah, we'll repeal now and replace later. Yeah, you had 7 years to come up with something when you weren't in power, to have it all ready to go when you ended up in power, and you've got absolutely nothing, because you're not a party of governance, you're a party of ideology.
And then when you have the chance to pass the bill, you can't. Your own party doesn't support it enough because you never really wanted to in the first place. That's the thing about the Obamacare thing that pisses me off the most, is that now we can see they didn't really want to do it at all. All they wanted to do was have it as something that they could use to whip up resentment against Obama.
Yeah, when they were happy to try to repeal it, knowing that he was there, it would never have enough votes to defeat a presidential veto, and so it would never go through. But once they had the free reign, they could pass it, they could get it to the president would sign it, and they realized, oh crap, we're going to own this, and all of a sudden they backed off.
Exactly. We're gonna kick 20 million people off of health insurance, and everybody's gonna know it's our fault because it was our Congress and our president that did it. And I guess maybe we shouldn't do this. It gets me so fucking angry. Anyway, so let's do our 5 minutes.
Yeah, because we're an hour in, so we aim for the show to be about an hour. We never wrap up in an hour. Yeah. We're like 58, 59 minutes in now, and so it's time to do our 5 minutes of Trump.
Let's do 5 minutes of Trump.
Have we got any sort of timer, or is it still just
it's still an R&D?
Well, if only the government would create. You have to create your own timer, because that's your own personal responsibility. You can't count on anyone else to make an on-screen timer for you.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So I'm just going to start the timer, and I will call out in 1 minute intervals.
Oh, so will you?
So I always think that I'm going to do that, and then I'm always like, 15 seconds.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so anyway, I'm going to start the timer now. Let's go.
Okay, one of the recent things with him is the whole we haven't done anything wrong. We have been completely above the board. This is all fake news. All these complaints about us. We haven't done anything that no one else has done. And also, I want to know if it's okay if I can pardon myself so that I cannot be prosecuted for the crimes that I've committed. Does anyone have an answer to that? I'm asking for a friend.
Just curious. Just curious. One of his advisors even told that to the Washington Post. They said, "Oh, this doesn't have anything to do with the Russia thing. He's curious."
Well, if idle curiosity, you ask your advisors if they're at all competent. So what's the deal with this? You don't go public with it. But Donald Trump has no filter between his brain and the entire world.
Well, and he tweeted yesterday about everybody agrees. And when Trump says everybody agrees, that means I'm just making this up. Yeah. Everybody agrees that my power to pardon is complete, whatever the fuck that means. Which, no, they don't.
That's not how it works at all.
That's not how it works at all. Even the Constitution even says you can't pardon in matters of impeachment. Right. So there's an explicit constitutional limitation
Right.
placed on it.
I mean, Nixon got pardoned, but he'd already resigned at that point, so there was no possibility of impeachment because he wasn't in office at that point. He was a private citizen by that time.
And Gerald Ford
and there's still some, to this day, there's some debate about the legality of that. But
yeah, and Gerald Ford was completely separate from the Watergate thing, so far as we know. So it's not because I know one of the articles I read about the pardon thing was a lot of people speculate that if Trump tried to pardon people who he was suspected of being involved in a criminal conspiracy with, that would be challenged, that the Supreme Court might actually try to strike that down, because that amounts to the president pardoning himself.
Right.
Because if nobody can prosecute people who conspired with you, then they can't prosecute you either. So you're basically pardoning yourself for all practical purposes.
Right. So
3 minutes, by the way, 3 minutes.
Every minute you said.
See,
it works. Yeah. Well, what else is there to say? I mean, it's just so much bullshit. You can't deal with it all.
Did you read the excerpts from his New York Times interview?
No.
That's probably good. It's probably good that you didn't do that. It was. I mean, I don't know how
this man there. I don't understand how even for the Republicans in Congress and throughout the party to still support Donald Trump means that they support the party over the country, beyond all doubt, because he is he. You see the pictures of him when he gets behind the wheel of the truck. He's like the 5-year-old with the steering wheel leaning forward, making the engine noises with his mouth practically out. Fire truck.
Yeah. Oh, and where's the fire? We'll put it out fast.
That is exactly how he's running this country.
Yeah. 2 minutes, by the way.
He has no clue. He clearly has no plan. He's not competent. He's not knowledgeable. He has no right being in this office. And they still support him simply because he's the white Republican in office. And
because he'll sign their bills.
Yeah. If I've been saying it for months, if Obama did a tenth of the shit that Trump has done, Republicans would be up in arms, lined up. It would be 24/7 on Fox News. It would be the story. I mean, you wouldn't be able to go a day without hearing it. But when Trump does it, what are you going to do? They actually use he's incompetent and doesn't know what he's doing as an excuse for his behavior.
Yeah. Even though, but he's also supposed to be this genius, though.
Right.
He's like this. He's brilliant, and he's so smart, and he knows everything. But he also has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah, he's a bumbling incompetent genius.
1 minute. It's if you swap Trump out for Obama, but leave everything else the same, he's impeached already.
Yeah.
I mean, he's impeached. You can't tell me. Remember how Sean Hannity pissed and moaned for fucking 8 years about Jeremiah Wright and William Ayers?
And also for requesting Dijon mustard at a restaurant.
Oh my God. Oh God. Yes.
Nothing was too petty.
And
but now conspiracy with the Russians to throw the election and
yeah. There's what do you mean where there's smoke there's fire? No, there's not.
There's like nearly half of Trump supporters don't believe that Trump Jr. had a meeting with Russians, even though Trump Jr. has publicly admitted he had a meeting with them.
15 seconds. Trump Jr. said he had the meeting.
Well, what does he know?
He tweeted it out.
When you have to make 100 changes to your forms about security clearances because you forgot 100 meetings.
Oh God, that's time.
Okay. Hell with those guys.
Fucking Trump.
I'm glad we limit this to 5 minutes because.
Yeah. I'm just going to say it. I don't think he's a good president.
Every election, I wonder how the Republicans are going to do worse than they did last time. We had Bush, and then you had Romney, so the 47, McCain, who brought in Palin, you had Romney with the 47%. It's like, how can it get any worse? Well, now we know.
It's like what David Letterman said.
I'm terrified to think this is the bottom because I hate to be wrong again.
It's like what David Letterman said. We're people in America are raised to believe that anybody can be president, and now we're finding out. Well, golly, I guess that's true.
It's not necessarily a good thing.
So
now we have our outro. We're normally going to some sort of geeky comic book. You got the Batman thing. I got the Mario thing going. Yeah.
Hey, right. So, this week is.
I don't know. I think that well, that's a geek question. Who would win, Batman or Mario?
Does Mario have his firepower?
Mario apparently has infinite lives, and Batman won't kill, and Mario just stomps people, and yeah. So
Mario would win because Mario would kill somebody. Mario
yeah.
sets people on fire. Mario stomps on people.
The first thing you do is crush him. First thing you do in the first game is crush the other Goomba. So yeah, Mario would win.
Mario would win. Mario has no code as far as we can tell. He just kills whatever's in front of him.
Always advancing to the right.
Yes, exactly. It's, you know, when you look at it, it's so obvious. Well, this week is actually, if we want to talk about nerdy stuff, Comic-Con was this week, and
I heard a little something about that.
Yeah, I know it leaves such a small impact in our culture. You hear so little about it. But yeah, so there's a new trailer for the new Star Trek show. There's a new trailer for the Thor movie coming out later this year.
I did see that one. I didn't know what I've seen.
Well, and then there's the trailer, another trailer for the Justice League movie.
Yeah. Well, people raved about that the trailer for the new Thor movie, and I watched it, and my response was more along the lines of, it's another trailer. I posted on Facebook recently. I said that it's the cinematic universe is it's a pretty impressive accomplishment, however you look at it. But 30 years from now, people who didn't grow up watching it as it developed are going to wonder why people were so excited about and spent so much money on and so much time on essentially the same movie remade 4 dozen times.
Yeah, that's one thing I will say. As much as I genuinely enjoy the Marvel, the MCU movies,
they have a strong formula.
Yeah, and I don't think they will age particularly well, with the exception of like the absolute cream of the crop best of them. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I think probably Captain America, Winter Soldier will still be thought of as a good example of the genre, but a lot of like, especially the big team ups like the Avengers movies, like I don't know if those will age particularly well. I think they'll be looked at more like curiosities indicative of their age. Where the people won't start to think that they're bad necessarily, but they'll be like, oh, and this was fun.
Yeah, but because they all do sort of have the same thing where you meet the characters, and then there's some big baddie who's never really all that well defined for the most part, and then the big confrontation at the end, and hey, good guys win every single time.
Like WrestleMania used to be.
I wouldn't know.
Hogan drops the leg, 1, 2, 3. You knew it was coming. You didn't care. But yeah, I mean,
you look at like the second Thor: The Lost World. I mean, can you tell me a whole lot of what happened in that, or how that advanced the Marvel Cinematic Universe plot?
It's just they said, we got to do another Thor one.
Yeah.
I'm honestly, as much as I like this movie version of Thor, and as much as like I think his standalone movies have been fine, right? I don't think they've been bad at all, but it does amaze me that we're getting ready to do 3 Thor movies. It's like, wow, if anybody was going to be the one to just show up in the Avengers movies and not get his own thing, I was sure it was going to be Thor.
Well, you have to give Robert Downey Jr. credit, because Iron Man was a B or C, B-list Marvel character. Nobody knew who Iron Man was. I mean, you knew Hulk, you knew Spider-Man. Like the DC side, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Most people don't really know Green Arrow or the Flash necessarily. People didn't know who Iron Man was. I went to see it, and I had no idea they were going to do this huge interconnected universe either. But I went to see it basically because it was a superhero movie, and it seemed interesting. And Downey Jr. is usually pretty good in what he's in, and so I gave it a shot. But now Iron Man's a household name.
Oh yeah,
he's the movies that did it, and it's Downey who made it happen, and it's amazing to think they had to fight to get him in the role.
Yeah, and think of how
and he's appeared in like 10 movies now.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, and he's done the 3 Iron Man movies. He's appeared in 2 Avengers movies. He'll appear in 2 more. He appeared in Spider-Man. He's in Spider-Man. He was in Civil War.
Yeah,
I mean, and then there's cameos here and there as well. It's like he
had that quickie cameo in the Incredible Hulk too, didn't he?
Yeah, which was probably the only like colossal failure of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, it turns out Hulk is going to be the one who only shows up in crossover movies.
Yeah, which is not what you would have guessed, but
Yeah, I mean, well, and
think how Black Widow, because the female characters can't have their own movies. The women,
that's true. Nobody wants to see a superhero movie about a woman.
Yeah, it turns out the only one DC's done well.
And speaking of that, because I know you said you didn't see the Justice League trailer.
No. I don't think I did. I might have, or
you
was it? Or either or that, or it was one that made absolutely no impact because it was a lot of noise. And was that the one where like Aquaman goes leaping through the air with his trident at something, and and a lot of special effects of people coming to like abrupt halts that would pulverize the bones in their body.
I remember
he did that with the scene where he comes down. He lands. That's something that throws me at the CGI when people are descending much faster than gravity can account for.
Yes,
that's something that threw me in the Man of Steel movie when Superman's learning to fly, which is very by itself is actually a really interesting and fun scene in a terrible movie. But it's one of those things where I didn't buy. I mean, he jumps up and he's this speck in the sky. You barely see him, and then and he's at the ground. It's like that's not gravity.
No. Why are you flying at the ground, Clark?
He's jumping up. He's losing, and then he flies at the ground at full speed. Bam!
He's like, I wonder if I can kill myself. Let me find out.
One of those things where the CGI just doesn't pass the basic eye test.
Well,
but that's a minor quibble. I mean, certainly that's not the worst sin that Man of Steel committed. But
no, though it's because at least he's flying out in the middle of nowhere. He's not like cracking streets by landing on them.
But that was the same thing I had in Iron Man 2 at the beginning, where he shows up at the expo, he comes flying down, and bam, he's at full speed, and he lands, and he's stopped.
Yeah,
I'm like, that would pulverize you. You'd be dead.
He's dead. It's just the suit now. It's just the suit doing stuff.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah. Oh no, Tony's dead. This is me. It's just Jarvis now. But no, I think it's obvious. It's obvious that DC knows that it has one good movie and the rest of their lineup is just complete dog shit that nobody's going to like, outside of like the hardcore super nerds who think that Batman v Superman was good.
It's very disappointing. Yeah, I love it when heroes fight each other because that's what heroism is all about.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any hope for such people. Yeah. But
just the fight scene through the town, and then they come in, and Superman's standing there waiting for it. It's like, okay, we'll let them shoot at each other, and they'll come to me.
Yeah, they some stray bullets killed some longshoremen, whatever. But no, Wonder Woman is now officially the most successful DC EU movie at the box office. It has outgrossed, at least domestically speaking, it has outgrossed all the other ones so far.
Well, that's because it's a very good movie.
And and the trailer, the Justice League trailer, begins with Wonder Woman stuff. Right. And you're like, oh, okay, so at least the guy making the trailers knows what the fuck is up. He's like, oh boy, people. So we need to trick people into thinking that Wonder Woman is in this a lot. Yeah. So we'll start with her shit first, and then it goes on, and it's. I mean,
and then all of a sudden it's, what's your power? I'm rich.
Yeah.
Thanks, bitch.
There was one funny joke. There's one funny joke in the Justice League trailer. There's a scene that they show a clip of it's Batman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, and Flash all on the roof with Commissioner Gordon. And Commissioner Gordon's like, I only put up one signal. Who are you other three people? No, no. He said he's talking about what some ominous thing is happening, and then he turns around and everybody is gone but the Flash, and the Flash is looking around and he's like, oh wow, they just disappear, don't they? That's kind of rude. And then the Flash runs away, and I'm like, okay, that shows that at least somebody put like 30 seconds of thought into writing a clever joke.
The Flash is the one who's left behind.
The Flash is the one who's left behind. Like, that's kind of funny.
And that's funnier than the ones in the Batman v Superman. It's like, who's she? I thought she was with you. Where it turns out that Bruce is the one who actually knows who she is and has been talking with her for the...
You're the reason she's here. Like, what would be wrong with flipping the joke? But even then it wouldn't work, because Batman should always know who she is. Yeah. But yeah, it's a terrible joke, and it's a terrible movie, and everybody involved in it should be deeply ashamed. But yes,
the Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman are really terrible movies, and in a completely different way than Batman and Robin was a terrible movie.
Yeah, because Batman and Robin is terrible in a way that you can still watch it and make fun of it and have a good time, and you don't feel like you're being punished for something.
Well, Schumacher's like, everyone remember, this is a cartoon. Yeah. And then the Zack Snyder one, it's like, ever remember, this is extremely important, and there's a lot of gravitas to it. Take it seriously.
Well, and you know the thing in the Justice League trailer that made me roll my eyes was they have a little bit of a voiceover from Batman. Or actually, I think it's probably Bruce Wayne, because Batman, he's talking like a normal person. You know, he's not doing like the digitally modulated Batman voice that they did for some reason. And
because they didn't want to do the Christian Bale voice.
Yeah, because that's not how Batman has spoken.
Although
no matter who plays him.
We'll say this about Christian Bale. He had an first movie, a great second movie, an third movie, but none of them were like, oh dear God.
Yeah, no, nobody. Yeah, exactly. But so Batman's doing this voiceover, or Bruce, whoever is doing this voiceover in the trailer, and he's talking about how the other heroes have to come together after the death of Superman, because Superman inspired people. Superman asked people to look beyond themselves and to aspire to be greater things. And I'm like, so is he talking about a completely different Superman?
He's talking about the one that we know from the comics, not the one that
has he been reading comic books? Because like
in the second movie, the Batman versus Superman, there's a statue to Superman. I'm like, what did he do to earn that?
Yeah.
Hooray, you own our city. Well, we'll erect a statue to you?
And you
have to show, you can't say he's a hero, you have to show heroism.
He hates being Superman. if there's a defining quality to this version of Superman, it's that he fucking hates being Superman.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, Batman likes being Batman more than this Superman likes being Superman.
And both of his friends have told him, you know, both of his parents are libertarians. You don't know anything. They have to take personal responsibility for themselves.
Just because you could save the world doesn't mean you have to. Fuck everybody, Clark.
I mean, you should consider it. You know.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous that, you know. But again, it's I don't know if.
But that's one of the reasons why the Wonder Woman movie works, where the other ones don't, because Wonder Woman is actually like doing heroic things and helping people and looking out for others. And she doesn't resent what she's doing. All the men resent what she's doing. But
she's gonna get drafted by the Marvel universe if she keeps it.
They'll trade the Hulk over, and then Hulk can take turns leveling cities.
Yeah, and at least Hulk can be like, I'm not morally culpable. I'm just a rage monster. You can't blame me for this. You have complete control of yourself, and you're still doing this shit. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, my hope, and I'm not holding my breath, my hope is that Warner Brothers, DC recognizes what they've done wrong and have taken the feedback somewhat seriously, and seeing how much better the feedback is on Wonder Woman because of and why that is, and actually learn something from it.
Yeah.
And demonstrate it going forward, which they might, but you can't really bet money on it.
I mean, you know, I'm reminded of what James Gunn said after Deadpool was a big hit, where he said, you just watch, this movie was such a huge, unexpected success, and the people who make superhero movies are going to learn exactly the wrong lessons. Yeah,
I mean, they're going to say, all of a sudden, everything's going to be R-rated, but it's not going to have any charm or redeeming.
Exactly.
You know,
it's not
people, and they go look at Logan too now. There's the R-rated, and that was a powerful character. So it's practically a Western.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's it's like the reason that those movies were so successful, particularly Deadpool and Logan. It wasn't just that they were rated R. It was that those movies, when people who are fans of those characters go to see those movies, they see the characters that they love.
And as far as superhero movies go, it's kind of hard to be on, farther apart on the spectrum than those two movies. I mean, Deadpool is like almost a 2-hour-long meta joke, and it's meant to be laughed at. And Logan, I mean, if you smile at any point in that movie, you've probably done something wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're both really good movies, and they're both rated R. But the key is not that they're rated R. That's just an artifact of what they are. The key is in the characters and the fact that you enjoy watching the movie.
Yeah, they're good movies in and of themselves. Yeah, they're good movies in and of themselves. So if somebody just wanders in from the street and doesn't know who the fuck Wolverine is, they'll still have a good movie to watch. Or if somebody gets dragged along by their boyfriend or their girlfriend or whoever, you know, they can still have a nice time watching a good movie. But if you happen to be a fan from the comics, you see something that resembles the character that you like.
As opposed to the Superman movies, where if you don't know the character from the comics, you have no reason to care about the character in the movie.
No, and everything you know about them from the comics that causes you to care about him is contradicted on screen.
Yeah.
But you're still supposed to carry that over from the comic to, you know, and superimpose it on what's happening on screen.
Like when he dies, and you're like, I think the world is safer now.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I don't know.
Speaking.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to sort of change the subject a little bit.
Yeah,
so I was going to say, speaking of movie trailers, did you see the early trailer for the movie about the making of The Room?
Yes. Yes. Oh, it looks so good. I can't wait to see it.
The sad thing is it's going to be better than the actual movie that it's based on.
It's going to be so much better.
I wonder if it actually took that many takes to get that scene.
I think it did. Because it's based on the book by Greg Sestero, who played Mark in The Room.
I have actually not watched that entire movie. I've seen about probably 15, 20 minutes of it through various clips, but I've never actually sat down and watched the movie.
It's like, I mean,
you know, people say like William Shatner is a bad actor. You know, people mock him for his acting ability a lot.
Yeah.
William Shatner is not a bad actor. You don't realize truly bad acting until you see truly bad acting, and then you look back and you say, "Wow, these other people. I mean, they may not be great, but they sure as hell ain't terrible."
No.
Pretty much everyone in the room is terrible.
William Shatner is a ham.
Yeah.
And people sometimes confuse ham with just a bad actor, and they're not always necessarily the same thing.
Right.
I mean, yeah, William Shatner is basically competent as an actor in a way that Tommy Wiseau just isn't. Like William Shatner, if you cast William Shatner for your movie, he will learn his lines, he will hit his mark, he will, you know, move in the shot the way you blocked out the shot. Like he knows what to do at a fundamental level that Tommy Wiseau just doesn't understand. He doesn't, and he's the one. He wrote it, he directed it, he hired everybody, and it's like, does he know he's not standing in the right place? Does he know that does he know how that sounds? That's the take he decided to use for the movie.
It's like that was the best take.
I think it was probably like in that trailer where, you know, they printed the first one that he got right, and they were like, let's just move on. He got one right. Let's just use that one.
And I've seen the scenes of them tossing around football when clearly none of them have ever held a football previously in their lives. It's like they're holding it, you know, points up and down, and they're throwing it like
yeah. Oh, and they toss a football around on a rooftop. Like, who throws the football on the roof? Yeah, and yeah,
I have to wonder how that's going to turn out. I have to wonder I wonder what Tommy Wiseau thinks about it. I don't really care as such, but I wonder what he thinks about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's an interesting guy because after it gained some notoriety,
basically is a worldwide joke.
Yeah, he started to try to claim that it was a black comedy, that he had made it that way on purpose, which A, nobody believes that for a second, and B, if that were true, that would ruin it.
Yeah,
because what makes it brilliant is that
these are people doing their best, and their best is that bad.
They're trying their best, and they still come out with this.
What's that phrase? A camp cannot be manufactured; it has to be discovered.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah. I mean, The Room is, if you've never seen the whole thing from beginning to end, The Room is it's for people who love bad movies. It's like a religious experience. It's like a perfect object. It's like I've seen a perfect object. It's the most terrible thing I've ever seen.
Again, like I said, I've only seen little bits and pieces in clips and things stitched together. I seem to remember seeing one clip where, and again, the acting is absolutely terrible, but everyone's outside, and the woman just said, let's everyone move inside, and the entire party moves inside, and they talk for like 3 minutes, like, let's all go outside, and the entire party moves outside.
You know, like people do at parties.
It's like a giant game of Simon Says, only you don't have to say Simon Says.
Yeah, I think that's also the scene where Johnny, the Tommy Wiseau character, says, great party, honey. You invited all my friends. Good thinking. Not like that last party where you invited all those people who hate me.
Say, I don't know any of these people.
Yeah. What? It's a party. I just picked 20 random people. I thought that's what you do. No, you pick the friends. You invite the friends to the party.
And the scene they use for the trailer is one of the ones where when you watch it, you're like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Because it is so, I mean, it is so artificial. It is so unnatural. It's like you could imagine somebody saying those words, but it's just in that order, but it's just so unnatural, especially the sudden, oh, hi, Mark.
Yeah. And there are scenes in the movie where like characters will just be there without having an entrance, where like at first it's like it's two characters in a scene and then they're doing something and then they'll cut to a shot of like two more people that are just there and you didn't see them walk in. You're not exactly sure where they are in relation to the other two people you were just watching. It's just like, oh, hey, we're here too. It's like, what?
One thing I thought about, one thing I always liked about the show Frasier that you didn't see on other sitcoms is that everyone actually knocked before coming in.
Yeah, they didn't do the wacky.
Because so many shows where, like, it's a sitcom, everyone just wanders right in like it's their home. Frasier actually rang the doorbell or they knocked and they waited to be let in.
Yeah, although they did that. They did that on Seinfeld with Kramer, and they did eventually use that for an awesome punchline where it was the time that Jerry had his door locked, and you just heard the fucking thud when Kramer tried to run in and the door was locked.
That's paying off at least a little bit.
Yeah. Well, what do you say we wrap this puppy up?
I think so, because this went a bit longer than I expected, but that's fine. That's fine.
I was waiting for Pierre to show up.
He's in a hospital in Portugal.
Well, they don't have Wi-Fi in Portugal.
Well, it's not America, so they don't have anything there.
That's true. It's true. It's one of those hellish European countries where they don't have things like we have.
Yeah, it's like if you're in Canada and you have to take a dog sled across the frozen tundra until you get to the border.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have roads.
What was that? Anyway. That article on The Onion? Perky Canada has own government laws. Yeah. It says like, the population estimated like 20,000 people, and says Canada City, the capital of Canada.
Yeah. Look at Canada's such a big deal. We didn't have to fight a war to get our independence.
And there's one place where they're ahead of us. They actually speak 2 languages.
Yeah, and they don't even make that big of a deal about it. It's almost like you can do that.
So, what are the chances you think that Pierre will be here next month?
I keep pulling out the chair, and he keeps, it's.
Mm-hmm. Did you even send him? Did you text him the link or something?
I text him the link every time.
Okay, just making sure, because it occurs to me that if he's not showing up, but he's not getting the link, that could potentially have something to do with it.
No, it's not my fault.
Okay, all right.
It's not my fault. He gets the link the same as you do, buddy.
Okay. All right.
You know what really pisses me off? Here's what really pisses me off. Is that one time I sent him the link on Facebook like I do to you, and I saw that he saw it. It said seen. Maybe somebody else was looking at his phone. I don't know. But
he saw it before the show?
Yes.
Was that the first show? Because that one came together quick. He wasn't even waiting just because it was
yeah.
I don't know.
I'm tired of making excuses for him. He better show up next time. That's all I'm saying.
Have you made any excuses for him?
No.
I'm the one he usually reports to.
That's true. Yeah, because he's scared of me.
Well, of course he's scared. You got the pen and the cap.
Exactly. I'm a very intimidating person.
You're so intimidating that like half the atheist YouTubers all are scared of you and hate you and make hate videos toward you.
Exactly. Because they're scared of me. They can't, because they know they can't handle me. Exactly. That's it. Anyway, that's it.
That's it. That's a little bit more of a whimper that we're going on than I thought of, but
Oh God, I can't think of a punchline.
There's really no punchline to make. No,
fuck it.
Well, it's been an hour and a half. Thanks everyone for watching. We appreciate it, and we'll be doing this again at some point in. Let's see, it's July now, so I'm guessing August would be a good guess for the next one.
That's a good estimate.
Good estimate, yeah.
Dog days of August.
Probably on Sunday sometime, but don't know which one yet.
We'll let you know.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.